She was born into a life where nothing came easy. From the day she could remember, she knew hunger before she knew comfort, and silence before she knew love. The small house where she grew up was always loud with complaints, yet quiet when she needed care. She was never asked what she wanted or how she felt. She was simply told to adjust, to stay quiet, and to be grateful for whatever little was given to her as a child. She watched other kids walk to school with clean clothes and packed lunches. She went barefoot most days, her clothes washed so many times that the fabric felt thin and tired. She learned early not to ask for things, because every request came with anger or mockery. The people around her believed she was unlucky, that her presence brought problems. Slowly, those words sank deep into her heart. Her mother passed away when she was still very young. After that, the house changed completely. The little warmth that once existed disappeared. The woman who came into her father's life never accepted her. To her, the girl was a reminder of the past, something unwanted that refused to disappear. Every mistake, even small ones, became a reason for punishment. Every silence was filled with blame. She was expected to work instead of study, to clean instead of dream. When food was limited, her plate was the smallest. When there was anger, she was the first target. Still, she tried her best. She woke before sunrise, helped with chores, and went to work wherever she could find it. Inside her was a quiet hope that one day things might change. But hope can be fragile, and it is tested every day. The incident that broke her happened in front of many people. It was during a family gathering in the village, a place where respect mattered more than truth. A small argument turned into a public scene. Accusations were thrown at her without proof. No one asked her side of the story. No one tried to stop what followed, in a moment of rage and humiliation. She was pushed away, her feet slipping as she fell into wet mud near the road. Laughter followed. Some looked away, pretending not to see. Others watched with cold faces, as if she deserved it. The mud covered her clothes, her hands, her hair. But the pain inside was heavier than the dirt on her body. She tried to stand. Her hands shaking, her eyes burning with tears she refused to let fall. Her heart was pounding, not just from shame, but from the realization that this was how little her life mattered to them. Not one person stepped forward to help her. Not one voice spoke in her defense. That was the moment she understood something clearly for the first time. She was alone. She walked away slowly, each step heavy. People whispered behind her, but she didn't turn back. The mud dried on her clothes as the sun went down, leaving marks she knew would never fully wash away. By the time she reached the edge of the village, her legs were tired. But her mind was strangely calm. That night, she slept under the open sky. The ground was hard and the air was cold, but it felt less painful than the place she had left behind. As she lay there, staring at the stars, she thought about her life. She thought about all the times she had stayed silent. All the moments she had accepted pain because she believed she had no choice. For the first time, she asked herself a different question. What if she didn't go back? The thought scared her, but it also gave her strength. She had nothing to lose. No one waiting for her. No place that truly felt like home. With trembling hands, she wiped the dried mud from her face and made a quiet promise to herself. She would survive. She would find a way forward even if the road was cruel. The next morning, she walked toward the city. She had no money, no plan, and no support. The buildings grew taller, the streets busier. People rushed past her, lost in their own lives. She felt invisible, like a shadow moving through the crowd. But invisibility also meant freedom. No one knew her past. No one knew her pain. Her first days were the hardest. She searched for work from sunrise to sunset. Doors closed in her face. Some people judged her by her appearance. Others offered work that came with disrespect. She refused anything that would break her dignity. Even when hunger twisted her stomach at night, she rested wherever she could find space. A bus stop, a quiet corner, sometimes near closed shops. She learned to sleep lightly, always alert. Life was harsh, but she reminded herself that at least no one was throwing her into the mud anymore. One evening, Once, after a long day of rejection, she found work cleaning outside a large building. The pay was small, but it was honest. As she worked, she looked at her reflection in the glass walls. She barely recognized herself. Thin, tired, but still standing. People passed by without noticing her. Some avoided eye contact. Some acted as if she didn't exist. She was forgotten again, just in a different way. But this time, she wasn't waiting for anyone to save her. As the lights of the city came on, she felt something new inside her. A quiet strength. She didn't know what the future held. She didn't know that this city would one day change her life completely. All she knew was that she had survived the worst humiliation of her life. And she was still moving forward. The world had rejected her. It had thrown her into the mud and walked away. But deep inside, she carried a small fire that refused to go out. And though she didn't realize it yet, this was only the beginning of a story no one expected. Life in the city was nothing like she had imagined. She thought the streets would bring opportunities, perhaps even kindness. But they were as harsh as the village, if not harsher. The people were busy with their own lives, and she had to learn to navigate the world without being seen as a burden. Every day was a test, and every night was a reminder of how alone she truly was. The first challenge was finding a place to sleep. She could not afford a room, and shelters were crowded and smelled of despair. She learned to find corners of quiet streets, under bridges, near abandoned shops. She wrapped herself in whatever clothing she could find and tried to stay warm. Rain was her worst enemy. The nights when the sky opened and the water ran through the streets were nights she would never forget. Her clothes would stick to her skin, her hair soaked, and the mud on her hands turned into cold, hard patches. Yet she survived. She told herself survival was the first victory, even if no one noticed it. Finding food was equally difficult. She would walk past expensive restaurants, watching people eat and laugh and feel the pang of hunger in her stomach. Sometimes she scavenged for scraps near trash bins. Other times, she begged silently, hoping for a kind gesture from strangers. But most of the time, she got nothing. Hunger became a constant companion, but it also became a teacher. It taught her patience, it taught her humility, and it taught her that even small victories mattered. She found work cleaning outside buildings. The pay was low, but at least it was honest. She would sweep the streets, collect trash, and scrub windows until her hands hurt. People ignored her presence, treating her as part of the background as if she were invisible. At first, that hurt, but soon she realized that invisibility was a kind of protection. No one could harm her if they didn't see her. No one could mock her if she was a shadow. Her days were long and exhausting. She worked from sunrise to sunset, and even then her body ached from fatigue. But she refused to give up. She told herself that every coin earned, every hour worked, was a step closer to something better. And in the quiet moments when she rested for a few minutes on a curb, she allowed herself to dream. She imagined a life where she could live without fear, without hunger, without humiliation. It was a fragile dream, but it was hers. One evening, as she was cleaning outside a particularly tall building, she noticed a man watching her. He stood at a distance, tall and confident, with an expression that was hard to read. At first, she thought he was just another stranger, someone passing time watching people in the streets. But there was something different about the way he looked at her. There was no judgment, no sneer, no superiority. Just observation, quiet and steady. The man approached her the next day. He spoke politely, asking if she needed help. She was suspicious at first. She had been offered help before, only to be mocked or humiliated. But his words were simple, direct, and kind. He offered her a small amount of money for extra work, not charity, but for honest effort. She hesitated, unsure whether to trust someone after so many betrayals. But the need to survive outweighed her fear. From that day on, he became a regular presence in her life. Not someone who controlled her or dictated her actions, but someone who noticed her effort and her dignity. He would sometimes leave small gestures, extra money, warm food, or even a blanket when the nights were cold. She never knew his name, and he never demanded hers. There was a quiet respect between them, built on observation rather than words, she began to notice things about him too. He was never loud, never showy. His wealth was obvious from the way people moved around him, but he did not flaunt it. There was loneliness in his eyes, a kind of quiet sadness that she recognized from her own life. She realized that perhaps like her, he had known isolation. Perhaps he too had faced moments where the world turned away. Despite the connection, she remained cautious. Her past had taught her that trust was fragile and that people often came with hidden motives. But there was something different here. She found herself looking forward to his presence, to the small conversations they shared, and to the unspoken understanding that existed between them. Slowly, she allowed herself to feel a sense of hope, even if it was fragile and fleeting. Life continued to be difficult. The city was unforgiving. She faced judgment from others, harsh words from employers, and the constant struggle to find food and shelter. Yet, she never lost her resilience. Every challenge became a test of her strength. She learned to navigate the streets with caution, to find opportunities where others saw none, and to hold on to the small victories that came her way. The nights remained lonely, but they were also a time of reflection. She thought about her past, the pain she had endured, and the humiliation she had survived. She remembered the mud, the cold, the laughter of those who had rejected her. But instead of breaking her, those memories fueled her determination. She promised herself that she would rise above the circumstances that had held her down. Slowly, the city began to feel less hostile. She learned its rhythms, its secrets, and its opportunities. She discovered that kindness could be found in unexpected places, often hidden behind the most unlikely faces. And she began to believe, quietly, that perhaps one day, her life could change in ways she had never imagined. Her connection with the man grew stronger, though still cautious. They never spoke of the past in detail, but their understanding was silent and profound. He saw her effort, her dignity, and her quiet strength. And she saw in him a kind of honesty and care that she had rarely encountered in her life. Their interactions were small gestures, brief conversations, shared glances, but they carried weight beyond words. One day, as she rested after a long day's work, she realized something important. She had survived not because anyone saved her, but because she refused to give up. She had survived not because the world was kind, but because she was stronger than the world had imagined. And in that survival, she found a sense of pride she had never known before. The city still had its dangers, its judgments, and its hardships. But she faced them with a quiet determination, a sense of purpose that grew stronger with each passing day. She knew that her journey was far from over, but she also knew that she would continue moving forward. Step by step, day by day, and though she did not yet know it, her life was about to change in ways she could not have dreamed. The small connection she had found, the man who had noticed her, would become a key part of her story. But for now, she focused on surviving, on working honestly, and on holding on to the small flame of hope that refused to go out. Every day she reminded herself that she mattered, that her efforts were not invisible, and that even in the harshest circumstances, there was a chance for something better. And in that reminder, she found strength, courage, and the determination to keep moving forward, no matter how difficult the path became. Her life continued in the city. Each day, a mixture of struggle and small victories. She had become accustomed to the harshness around her, yet she'd never stopped dreaming of something more. The man who had noticed her months ago remained a quiet presence in her life. She didn't understand why he paid attention to someone like her, yet she felt a strange comfort in his kindness. Unlike others who looked down on her or ignored her, he treated her with dignity and respect, something she had long been denied. He began leaving small tasks for her in the building he managed, paying her honestly for her efforts. At first, it was just a little extra work cleaning windows and hallways, but over time, it grew into more responsibilities. She was careful, always conscious of doing her work well. She did not want pity, and she did not want to be treated as less than capable. She wanted to prove, even to herself, that she could rise above her past. Slowly, she began to see changes in herself. Her confidence grew, not dramatically, but in subtle ways. When she held a broom or scrubbed a window, she felt pride in her effort. She began to dress slightly better with the little money she earned. It's not to impress anyone, but to feel a sense of self-respect. It was a small step, but it mattered deeply to her. The man noticed the changes too. He observed her carefully, admiring her determination and her ability to survive in a world that had been cruel to her. He never judged her past or mocked her struggles. Instead, he seemed to value her resilience, her quiet strength, and her capacity to keep going when most people would have given up. There was a quiet connection growing between them, subtle but undeniable. One day, as she worked cleaning the large glass windows of the building, he approached her with a question. It was simple, almost ordinary, but it caught her off guard. He asked about her dreams, what she wanted for herself beyond survival. She hesitated, unsure if it was safe to answer. People had asked her similar questions before, only to dismiss her answers or laugh at them. But there was sincerity in his voice, a genuine interest that she had rarely encountered. For the first time in years, she spoke about her hopes. She told him about her desire to have a life where she could feel safe, where she could be respected, and where she could help others in need. She spoke of learning more, of understanding the world, and of finding a place where she could belong. He listened quietly, nodding, never interrupting, never offering judgment. His attention felt like a rare gift, and she felt herself relaxing in a way she hadn't for years. As weeks turned into months, their interactions became more natural. He would occasionally offer advice or guidance, helping her navigate challenges she encountered at work or in the city. She began to trust him slowly, realizing that his presence in her life was not about control, but about support. She found herself looking forward to his visits, the small conversations they shared, and even the quiet moments when they simply worked in the same space without speaking. Despite the growing connection, she remained cautious. Her past had taught her that people often came with hidden motives, and trust was not easily given. She was aware of the power difference between them. He was wealthy and influential, while she was struggling to survive. Yet there was no pressure, no expectation beyond honesty and effort. It was a relationship built on mutual respect. It's not convenience or manipulation. Her work began to pay off in small but meaningful ways. She was able to afford better food, and occasionally she could buy a small treat for herself. She started saving a little money, hoping that one day it could help her move forward in life. Each day, she felt a little stronger, a little more capable, and a little more hopeful. She began to believe, quietly, that perhaps her life could change for the better. The man continued to observe her growth, offering subtle encouragement. He noticed how she carried herself, how she handled challenges, and how she treated others with kindness despite her own hardships. It became clear to him that she was not just surviving, she was evolving. Her resilience, intelligence, and quiet determination set her apart from anyone he had known. One afternoon, he invited her to visit a part of the building that she had not worked in before. It was a small office, rarely used, and he explained that it needed cleaning and organizing. She agreed, curious but cautious. As she worked, he watched her carefully, offering occasional guidance. He seemed genuinely interested in her progress, in how she approached each task, and the effort she put into every detail. During one of these visits, a small conversation led to a deeper exchange. He asked her about her childhood, about her experiences in the village, and about the moments that had shaped her. She spoke hesitantly at first, but then the words began to flow. She told him about the struggles, the rejection, and the moments of humiliation she had endured. She spoke of the mud, the cold nights, and the loneliness that had followed her like a shadow. He listened without interruption, his expression serious but compassionate. For the first time, she felt truly heard. Someone had listened to her story without judgment, without pity, and without turning her pain into entertainment. It was a revelation, a small miracle in its own way. She realized that sharing her story did not make her weak. It made her human. It made her feel seen, and for someone who had been invisible for so long, that was a powerful experience. Their relationship slowly began to deepen, though it was far from romantic at this point. It was a bond built on understanding, trust, and mutual respect. She began to rely on his guidance in small ways, seeking advice on practical matters and learning to navigate challenges with his quiet support. She felt a sense of security that she had never known. Not because she was wealthy or powerful, but because someone genuinely cared for her well-being. Life continued to be difficult in many ways. The city still presented challenges, and she still faced moments of hunger, exhaustion, and judgment. But with the man's presence, she found a sense of balance. She learned to approach obstacles with patience and strategy rather than fear. She began to understand that her life did not have to be defined by past rejection or humiliation. One evening, after a long day of work, she walked home through the crowded streets. Reflecting on how far she had come, she realized that she had survived the worst of her past, that she had learned to stand on her own, and that she was beginning to see a path forward. The thought was both frightening and exhilarating. The world had not been kind, but she had found her own strength within it. She also realized something else. The connection she had found with the man was no longer just a source of comfort. It was becoming a lifeline. His belief in her abilities, his respect for her dignity, and his quiet support were shaping her in ways she had never expected. She began to consider the possibility that her life could transform not just through her own efforts, but through the guidance and belief of someone who saw her worth. This realization was both exciting and intimidating. She knew that she had to remain cautious, that trust was still a fragile thing. But she also understood that she could not let fear dictate her actions. She had survived too much, endured too many hardships, and risen from too much pain to let the opportunity for support and guidance slip away as she continued to work. To learn and to navigate her life, she began to feel a quiet hope. It was not loud or overpowering, but it was persistent, like a small flame that refused to be extinguished. She realized that hope could coexist with struggle, that it could grow even in the harshest conditions, and that it could become a guiding force in her life. The man continued to be a steady presence, offering subtle encouragement and guidance. Observing her growth with quiet admiration, she began to recognize the importance of having someone who genuinely cared for her well-being, who valued her strength and her efforts without expecting anything in return. It was a new experience, one that slowly began to change the way she viewed herself and her potential. By the end of the months that followed, she had grown in ways she could not have imagined. She had learned to navigate the city, to handle challenges with resilience, and to find moments of joy in small victories. She had begun to trust again, cautiously, and she had discovered that being seen and valued by someone else was not a weakness, but a gift. Though the future was still uncertain, she felt more prepared to face it. She had survived the worst of her past, found a connection built on respect and trust, and discovered a quiet strength within herself. And though she did not yet know the full story that life had in store for her, she felt ready to take the next steps. Guided by her own resilience and the unexpected support of someone who had seen her worth when the world had not, life had begun to change for her. Slowly and quietly, but not without complications. As she started gaining confidence in small successes, she began to notice a shift in how others around her reacted. The same people who had ignored her, dismissed her, or treated her poorly now whispered and stared, trying to understand the transformation they saw. Some looked at her with envy, others with suspicion, and some with a hint of admiration. But most importantly, she began to realize that the connection she had built with the man she trusted would soon be tested. The city was full of judgments. Society often had rigid expectations. People assumed that someone who was poor could not have value, that someone struggling could not deserve respect or attention. These prejudices followed her, even as she worked diligently to improve her life. She had to learn to navigate the constant stares, the occasional unkind remarks, and the subtle challenges that came from being noticed by someone influential. The man who had become a quiet presence in her life noticed the subtle ways people reacted to her. Some of his colleagues and friends questioned why he seemed to care for someone like her, why he spent time with someone from such a different world. Whispers and cautious glances began to follow him, and though he rarely mentioned it, she could sense the pressure building. It was a kind of invisible tension that grew heavier each day. Despite this, he never wavered in his support for her. He continued to offer guidance, small opportunities, and moments of encouragement. Yet, the unspoken social pressure created a challenge for both of them. She felt torn between the safety of staying invisible and the desire to step into a life where she could belong. Every step forward seemed to carry the risk of judgment or rejection, and every decision required careful consideration. Her own insecurities also began to surface. She had spent years believing she was unworthy, and though she had made progress, the fear of being abandoned, ridiculed, or rejected again lingered. She worried that her past, her struggles, and her humble beginnings would always overshadow her worth. This internal struggle was exhausting. She found herself questioning whether she could truly embrace a life that seemed so different from what she had known. One day, she received a small but significant opportunity. The man suggested she assist with organizing an event that involved important people from his circle. It was a chance for her to showcase her abilities, to be recognized for her hard work and dedication. But it also terrified her. She knew that stepping into this world would expose her to scrutiny, judgment, and perhaps even ridicule. She hesitated, unsure whether she was ready to face the world in such a direct way. After much contemplation, she agreed. She reminded herself that growth often required risk, and that the fear she felt was a sign that she was stepping beyond her comfort zone. With determination, she prepared for the event, carefully planning her tasks and ensuring that she could perform them well. The man offered his guidance, helping her understand what to expect and how to navigate potential challenges. But he never imposed, letting her maintain her autonomy. The event was a test in many ways. As she moved through the crowd, she felt eyes on her, some filled with curiosity, others with judgment. People whispered, wondering who she was and why she was there. She felt her old insecurities creep back, memories of being rejected, humiliated, and overlooked. But she reminded herself of the progress she had made, of the strength she had developed, and of the support she had found. She held her head high, performing her tasks with diligence and care. Throughout the event, the man stayed nearby, not overshadowing her, but providing a sense of security. His presence was a quiet reassurance, a reminder that she was not entirely alone in facing the scrutiny. As the evening progressed, she began to notice something remarkable. People were no longer treating her solely as an outsider. Her competence, dedication, and quiet confidence began to earn respect, even from those who initially doubted her. It was a small but powerful victory, one that reaffirmed her belief in herself. Yet, the pressure of societal expectations did not disappear entirely. After the event, she faced conversations and whispers that reminded her of the challenges of being noticed. Some people questioned her motives, others doubted her abilities, and a few even tried to undermine her progress. These moments were difficult, testing her resolve and patience. She learned that success often brings scrutiny, and that being recognized for her efforts came with a new set of challenges. She confided in the man about her fears, her insecurities, and the difficulty of facing judgment. He listened patiently, offering reassurance without dismissing her feelings. He reminded her that her worth was not determined by the opinions of others, that her strength and resilience were what mattered most, and that she had already proven her ability to overcome adversity. His words were grounding, helping her regain focus and perspective in the face of social pressure. Over time, she began to develop strategies for navigating the complex social dynamics around her. She learned to respond to whispers and judgments with grace, to focus on her work rather than the opinions of others, and to maintain her dignity in challenging situations. This growth was not easy, but it was empowering. She discovered that she could rise above the negativity, that her value was not dependent on external validation, and that she had the inner strength to face whatever came her way. Meanwhile, her relationship with the man continued to evolve. Though they were not yet close in a romantic sense, the bond between them deepened through shared experiences, mutual respect, and understanding. He valued her independence and her determination, and she appreciated his patience, guidance, and unwavering belief in her abilities. This connection became a source of stability and reassurance in a world that often seemed unpredictable and harsh. She also began to notice changes within herself. The fear that had once dominated her life was gradually replaced by confidence and self-assurance. She learned to trust her instincts, to make decisions based on her values, and to navigate challenges with composure. She realized that while the world could be cruel, she had the power to shape her own path, to define her own worth, and to pursue opportunities without being paralyzed by fear. However, life was never without setbacks. There were moments when she faced rejection, misjudgment, or unexpected obstacles. Each challenge tested her resilience, but it also reinforced her determination. She learned that setbacks were not failures, but opportunities for growth and learning. Every difficult experience strengthened her, teaching her patience, perseverance, and the importance of staying true to herself. As months passed, she began to feel more confident in her ability to navigate both her personal and social life. She understood that her journey was not just about survival, about finding her place in a world that had once rejected her. She began to envision a future where she could contribute, thrive, and be recognized for her efforts, not for her past struggles or humble beginnings. The man remained a constant presence, offering guidance, support, and occasional encouragement. Their connection, built on respect and understanding, became a source of strength for her. She began to see that life could offer more than mere survival, that there were opportunities for growth, recognition, and even happiness. This realization was both liberating and motivating, pushing her to continue striving for better. Despite the challenges she faced, by the end of this period, she had grown in confidence, resilience, and self-awareness. She had learned to navigate societal judgments, to face scrutiny with grace, and to recognize her own worth. Her connection with the man provided stability and support, helping her see that she was not alone in her journey. And though the path ahead was still uncertain, she felt equipped to face it with determination, courage, and hope. She realized that her journey was far from over and that challenges would continue to arise. But she had discovered an inner strength that would guide her through difficulties, quiet resilience that could withstand judgment, and a connection with someone who valued her for who she truly was. This combination of self-belief, experience, and support became the foundation for the next stage of her life, a stage where love, opportunity, and transformation awaited. Ready to change her story in ways she had never imagined, time moved forward, and her life began to transform in ways she had never imagined. The struggles of her past, the rejection, the humiliation, and the long nights of survival had shaped her, making her resilient and determined. But now, she began to experience the fruits of that resilience. Not as sudden wealth or status, but as recognition, respect, and a sense of belonging. The man who had quietly supported her became a central figure in her journey, a constant reminder that kindness, belief, and patience could change a life. Her growth was not only personal, but also professional. The small tasks she had been given turned into bigger responsibilities. She started managing parts of the building, assisting with important decisions, and helping with events that brought people together. Every opportunity allowed her to demonstrate her competence, and gradually, people began to see her differently. She was no longer just the quiet girl who cleaned floors or windows. She became someone whose opinion mattered, whose presence commanded respect, and whose efforts could make a real difference. Despite the increasing responsibilities, she remained humble. She never forgot where she had come from, nor did she allow her circumstances to make her arrogant. She continued to treat others with kindness, often helping those who struggled as she once had. This empathy set her apart, earning her admiration from those who recognized the depth of her character. She understood that true success was not only about personal gain, but also about lifting others and remaining true to oneself. Her relationship with the man deepened over time. What had begun as quiet support evolved into a bond based on trust, respect, and mutual understanding. He admired her strength, intelligence, and resilience, while she valued his patience, guidance, and belief in her worth. Their connection was subtle at first, marked by small gestures, shared moments of laughter, and quiet conversations. But as time passed, it became clear that there was more than friendship between them. a deep emotional connection that neither could ignore. There were challenges, of course. Society had not entirely changed its view of her. Whispers and judgments still existed, and some tried to undermine her progress, questioning her motives and intentions. But she had learned to navigate these challenges with grace. She focused on her work, her values, and the people who genuinely mattered. Refusing to let the opinions of others define her self-worth, she had learned that resilience was not just about surviving hardships, but also about rising above negativity and remaining true to oneself. One significant moment arrived when she was invited to attend a high-profile event with him. This was not merely a social gathering, but an opportunity to meet influential people, to network, and to showcase her abilities. Initially, fear and insecurity gripped her. She worried about judgment, ridicule, and the possibility of failure. But the man encouraged her gently, reminding her that she had earned the right to be there, that her abilities and character spoke for themselves, and that she did not need to seek anyone's approval to validate her worth. At the event, she moved with quiet confidence. People noticed her, not for her past, but for her poise, intelligence, and capability. She answered questions with clarity, contributed ideas, and handled challenges with grace. For the first time in her life, she felt fully seen and recognized, not as someone who had suffered, but as someone who had grown, learned, and thrived. The experience was transformative, reinforcing her belief in her potential and opening doors she had never imagined. As her confidence grew, so did the bond between her and the man. Their conversations became deeper, more personal, and more meaningful. They shared thoughts, dreams, and reflections on life, learning from each other and supporting one another. The respect and admiration between them grew into love, quiet at first, then undeniable. She realized that love was not about grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but about presence, understanding, and unwavering support. In his care, she found safety, trust, and a sense of belonging she had never known. The man, too, discovered something profound. Despite his wealth and influence, he had experienced loneliness and detachment in a world that often valued power over genuine connection. In her, he found authenticity, resilience, and empathy, qualities that money or status could never buy. Their love was grounded in mutual respect, shared experiences, and an understanding of each other's struggles and triumphs. Together, they began to envision a future that combined both their worlds, a life built on respect, equality, and partnership. She learned to navigate the complexities of wealth and influence while maintaining her humility and authenticity. He learned to appreciate life beyond material success, finding joy and fulfillment in the growth and happiness of someone he cared for deeply. Their partnership became a powerful example of how love could transform not only individual lives but also the world around them. Her journey was not without reflection on the past. She remembered the mud, the cold nights, the hunger, and the humiliation she had endured. Those memories were no longer sources of shame, but reminders of how far she had come. They shaped her empathy, her understanding of human struggle, and her determination to help others who faced similar challenges. She realized that her experiences had not been wasted. They had prepared her for this moment, giving her strength, perspective, and the capacity to rise above adversity. As she settled into her new life, she began to make tangible changes in her community. She supported charitable initiatives, mentored young women who faced hardships similar to hers, and advocated for opportunities for those who had been overlooked or dismissed. She understood that true success was measured not by wealth or recognition, but by the positive impact one could make on the lives of others. In giving back, she found fulfillment and a deeper sense of purpose. Her relationship with the man also blossomed into a life of shared dreams and goals. They supported each other's ambitions, celebrated each other's achievements, and stood together in the face of challenges. Their love became a source of inspiration to those around them, a testament to the power of kindness, respect, and mutual support. It was a love that had grown slowly, nurtured by understanding and trust, and it became the foundation of a life filled with meaning and joy. In the end, She realized that her miracle had come not from wealth or social status, but from love, recognition, and self-worth. She had survived the worst of her past, endured humiliation and neglect, and faced the harsh realities of life with courage. Through resilience, effort, and the support of someone who truly saw her value, she had transformed her life. She had learned that true happiness was not about escaping hardship, but about rising above it. Embracing one's potential and finding love and connection along the way, the journey from being rejected, thrown into mud, and forgotten to being respected, valued and loved was not simple or easy. It required courage, perseverance, and unwavering belief in herself. But in the end, she found not just survival, but thriving. Not just recognition, but deep, meaningful love. And not just opportunity, but a life that reflected her strength, dignity, and resilience. Her story became a testament to the human spirit's ability to overcome adversity, to embrace love, and to create miracles from the ashes of hardship. She had finally become the person she had always dreamed of being, not because the world had changed, but because she had discovered the strength, courage, and love within herself. And in that transformation, she realized that the greatest miracle of all was not wealth or status, but the discovery of her own worth and the power of love that saw her for who she truly was, even after her life had changed so dramatically. She knew that her journey was far from over. The love she had found, the respect she had earned, and the recognition she had gained were incredible milestones. But life continued to present challenges and opportunities for growth. She understood that true transformation was not a single moment, but a continuous process, one that required vigilance, patience, and self-belief. In her new life, she had access to opportunities that had once been unimaginable. She began to explore ways to further her education and knowledge, determined to not let her past define her limits. She enrolled in courses that interested her, learning about business, communication, and leadership. She wanted to understand the world more deeply, to be capable of making decisions not only for herself but for others she wanted to help. Each lesson was a small victory, reinforcing her sense of accomplishment and fueling her ambition. Her efforts did not go unnoticed. Colleagues and acquaintances began to recognize her talent, dedication, and intelligence. Invitations to participate in projects, collaborations, and community initiatives started to come her way. She handled each opportunity with humility and diligence, always remembering where she came from and how hard she had worked to reach this point. She remained approachable and kind, qualities that drew people to her and earned her genuine respect. The man who had stood by her throughout her transformation continued to support her, but their relationship had evolved into a deeper partnership. He encouraged her independence, admired her strength, and celebrated her achievements. Together, they navigated the complexities of their intertwined lives, balancing personal aspirations with shared goals. Their bond became an anchor in her life, a source of stability and encouragement, allowing her to take risks and pursue ambitions she had once thought impossible. One particular challenge arose when she was offered a leadership role in a significant project that involved managing teams, budgets, and public interactions. The project was high-profile and demanded skills she had only recently started developing. Initially, fear and self-doubt crept in. Could she manage such responsibility? Would she be judged or fail publicly? These questions echoed the insecurities she had carried for years. But instead of letting fear paralyze her, she reflected on the years of struggle she had endured, the obstacles she had overcome, and the resilience she had cultivated. She realized that her past had prepared her for this moment. She accepted the challenge, knowing that success would require hard work, focus, and collaboration. She spent long hours planning, strategizing, and learning from mentors and advisors. She listened carefully, observed situations with discernment, and made decisions with confidence. Her team noticed her dedication, her fairness, and her ability to inspire and lead. Slowly, but steadily, the project began to take shape under her guidance, gaining recognition for its efficiency and impact. This experience taught her a valuable Lesson: leadership was not about asserting power or control, but about listening, understanding, and guiding with integrity. She realized that her journey from being overlooked and rejected gave her a unique perspective. She could empathize with those who struggled, motivate those who were uncertain, and approach challenges with compassion. Her experiences had shaped her into a leader who could balance strength with humanity. As her professional life flourished, she also focused on giving back to the community that had once ignored her. She initiated programs to support women and young people facing hardships similar to those she had endured. She offered mentorship, resources, and guidance to help them build confidence, develop skills, and find opportunities for growth. Her story became a beacon of hope, showing that perseverance and determination could overcome even the most challenging circumstances. At the same time, her personal life deepened in richness and fulfillment. She and the man she loved began to envision a future together, building plans that included shared dreams, family, and a life grounded in mutual respect and understanding. Their love was no longer tentative or cautious. It was strong, resilient, and rooted in the journey they had shared. They celebrated each other's successes, comforted each other in moments of doubt, and inspired one another to reach greater heights. Despite all the progress, she remained grounded. She never forgot the young girl who had been rejected, humiliated, and thrown into the mud. That memory became a source of strength and motivation, reminding her of the resilience she had cultivated and the journey she had undertaken. It inspired her to continue striving, to embrace challenges, and to remain compassionate and empathetic to those who faced struggles. There were moments of reflection when she considered how far she had come. The life she led now was unimaginable to the girl she had been. She could remember nights of hunger, streets that felt unsafe, and the pain of being invisible. And yet, here she was, standing with purpose, love, and influence, using her experiences to make a meaningful impact. Those reflections filled her with gratitude, humility, and a quiet sense of triumph. The story of her life became a testament to the human spirit's capacity to overcome adversity. She had experienced rejection, humiliation, and neglect. Yet she had not allowed those experiences to define her future. Through perseverance, self-belief, and the support of someone who saw her worth, she had transformed her circumstances, discovered love, and created opportunities not only for herself but for others. She continued to embrace new challenges with courage and determination. Each project, interaction, and endeavor reinforced her belief in her ability to succeed and to help others succeed. She became a source of inspiration to many, a living example that resilience, kindness, perseverance could lead to extraordinary transformation. In her daily life, she remained mindful of her journey. She approached people with empathy, listened with genuine interest, and acted with integrity. She understood that true influence was not measured by wealth or status, but by the positive impact one could make on others. Her story inspired those around her to pursue their own dreams, to believe in themselves, and to rise above their circumstances. Her bond with the man deepened further as they faced life's challenges together. They celebrated victories, learned from setbacks, and supported each other through uncertainties. Their partnership was rooted in mutual respect, shared values, and an understanding of the hardships that had shaped them. Together, they built a life filled with love, purpose, and the joy of shared accomplishment. She realized that miracles in life often came in the form of recognition, love, and self-discovery. Her journey from being rejected and forgotten to being valued, loved, and influential was not the result of chance. It was the outcome of her relentless determination. The lessons she had learned through hardship and the belief of someone who truly saw her worth. It was a transformation that went beyond material success, touching every aspect of her life, emotional, intellectual, and social. In the end, she understood that her life's true miracle was not wealth, power, or status. It was the discovery of her own strength, the ability to love and be loved, and the capacity to transform her pain into purpose. She had faced rejection, humiliation, and neglect, yet she had emerged resilient, confident, and empowered. She had created a life of meaning, connection, and fulfillment. She looked forward to the future with hope and determination. Challenges would continue to arise, but she knew that her journey had prepared her to face them with courage, wisdom, and grace. She had learned that every struggle carried a lesson, every hardship could build resilience, and every act of kindness could create ripple effects that transformed lives. Her story was no longer just about survival. It was about thriving, inspiring, and leaving a legacy of strength and compassion. She had turned rejection into triumph, humiliation into confidence, and invisibility into influence. And as she embraced each day, she knew that her life's greatest miracles were the love she had found, the respect she had earned, and the purpose she had discovered within herself. She had become more than she had ever dreamed. The girl who was once thrown into mud, ignored, and forgotten had grown into a woman of power, resilience, and grace. And she understood that her journey, with all its hardships and triumphs, would continue to inspire and uplift others for years to come. Her life had become a living testament to the power of perseverance, love, and the unwavering belief that every human being has the capacity for transformation and miracles.